created our print function, right? So now if there is anything inside the print function, it prints it. So suppose if we add it inside double quotes, it will be a string. Okay, now suppose if we run it, if I run it, it will show in the terminal, users python. Okay, so it is saying hello net, it is printing it. Okay, so this is how print statement works. Okay, suppose if I write year, so year is equal to what? Year is 2024, right? So year is 2024. Now um, if I write, what can be write, hobby quoted. Now you see this is a string character, so if it is a string, it needs to be enclosed inside double quotes or single quotes. Okay, it's an integer. Okay, so it's a it's a number, right? You see there's a number, so integer number, so we don't need to store it inside double quotes. If it is a string, if you want to make this number a string, we need to store it inside the double quotes also. Then we have, suppose we want to print it. If I want to print and if I want to write year, okay, if I want to print hobby also, so just let's run it first. So you see 2024 got printed. So now if I write it like this, if I write it like this, then hobby will become a string and hobby will get printed. Okay, and if I want to print this thing, the value stored inside the hobby variable, so we just want to need write as hobby. Okay, so it is accessing this variable, this print statement, this function, print function is accessing this hobby variable. Okay, now let's run it and you see it's getting printed here. Okay, so we have done till here, so we understood some of the things about variables. Okay, so what can be the invalid method identifier? We have discussed about it. So what can be the invalid? Suppose this is invalid. If I write it like this also, very suppose I like mm, suppose I have created a keyword hobby, right? Or year. So suppose if I write year has year ampersand, so this will be a wrong variable. Okay, so um, and what can be the invalid? Suppose you see print. If I write print is equal to, if I create a variable by the name of print, so this is invalid because this is a reserved keyword, we use it for the function, right? So this will be the wrong. Okay, so we understood these things, and what were the reserved keywords. Okay, so there are some reserved keywords also. Suppose if I write false, none, true, and, as, assert, break, elif. Okay, so these are some reserved keywords. Okay, so suppose I write about what are the reserved keywords here. What are the keywords? Some keywords are reserved, right? So what can be the reserved keywords? So suppose just let me write it here. So some keywords are, so for example, boolean keywords. If I write about boolean keywords, so what can be the boolean keywords? They can be false. So sorry, they can be false. Wow, why is it spelling getting wrong every time? So these are what? These are your boolean keywords, elif or while. So these are your loop based keywords. These are what? These are reserved keywords, elif, your then you can have many other, like what you say, logical and relational operators. If you write else, if you write and, not, or. Okay, I think it doesn't have else. So these are the there are many other keywords also. Loops, like you can have uh, for loops, you can have while loop. Okay, You can have many other keywords also. There can be return statements. Suppose you can have just let me write as if elif, and you can have return statements also. Okay, so if you go and create some functions like fun functions, so if you create a function also, okay, so like these there are many other keywords also, like, but I have given some of the keywords here. Okay, so these keywords are what? These are reserved keywords. Okay, so now we have seen some of the variables, like how we can create variables. Suppose we created a variable here, we stored a value. You see, if I hope variable hobby literal coding. Okay, so the value stored inside it is coding. Now what we have to do after running it, you see everything is there. Now next part is what, next we will discuss about something Next we are going to know about data types. Okay, so I am writing the name of file as data types dot py. Okay, so we are going to learn about data types here. So what can be the different data types? There can be different data types. So for example, okay, so there can be different data types. There can be integer, or let me just tell it like this also. Just let me write it like this. So I'm writing it like sorry. So suppose there can be integer. Okay, there can be, sorry, there can be float also. There can be integer, there can be float, there can be double, float or double, there can be complex numbers, there can be boolean also, right? There can be boolean, there can be list, tuples, and there are many more also. Okay, there can be strings also, right? Let me write it here. There can be string also. Okay, okay, so let's discuss about it. There are many more data types also. Now what are data types? So suppose, what is data, what is data types? Okay, so if you want to define data types, what are data types? Data means information, so types of data or types of information. Okay, so let's discuss about it. Okay, so now let's discuss about data types. Hmm. So what are data types? Data is what? Data means information, and types means different types of information. Your information can be your age, your name, uh, decimal point numbers. Like large decimal point numbers are called doubles. Then you have complex number, boolean, list. Okay, so now suppose integer is what? Integer can be any number. Integer can be positive, negative number, zero. So collectively they are called integers. So suppose I create a variable and I store some value inside it, that will be integer. Suppose I want to no, now if you want to see what is the type of this integer, so I want to say print. Then I will create, suppose I want to access the variable age, so I want to first write age equal to, okay, and then you see I will give a comma, and then I will write age. So now this will print the age. Let's run it. Age is equal to 24. Okay, so suppose I want to what do I want to do, what I want to know the type of this variable. So I want to print type of, and then I want to write age, sorry, age. So sorry, I write something wrong here. So I want type of age. Okay, so I guess I'm writing syntax wrong, so just let me cross check. Type age. Okay, so this will print what? This will print the type of age variable. Let's run it. Now you see age is equal to 24 and type is integer. Data type is integer. So suppose now if we go to strings, so string are inside double quotes or single quotes. So suppose I want to do the same with string also, so I want just copy it and I will just paste it here. and after pasting I'm just replacing this with my name. Okay, my name, and I'm just copying it, control C, and I'm just replacing this part. Just you need to copy it and paste it. Okay, so now I'm printing this, so I'm just running it. You see, now it is a string. Similarly you can do for others also. Suppose this is your complex number. Okay, so price, so this is what, this is your float. Okay, this is float type, and you can do the same operations to see its type. So suppose I want to do the same for list also. So suppose I am just doing what, I am writing print. I want to write a list of groceries. I want to write a list of groceries, and then I want to write comma, and want to write print list of groceries. I want to print that. After printing it, I want to print the type. What is the type of groceries? So I want to write sorry, list of groceries. So okay, so now it's done. Let's run it. So you see, list of groceries are chocolates, clothes, these all are, and the class type is list, so data type is list here. So next what we are going to do, next we are going to learn about operators dot py. Okay, so let's learn about operators. What are operators? So operators are basically what? Operators are when we have to do some punch work. We have to write some program. Then when we write some program, we want computers to do something for us which we don't want to do, or we want to automate some task. So now if we do something, we need to do some work, some operations, and here comes the part of operators. So there are different types of operators which do some work. So operators can be of many type. There can be assignment operator, there can be relational operators, so there can be many types of operators next. Okay, so there can be many types of operators. There can be assignment operators, there can be relational operators, there can be logical operators also. Operators and logical operators. So there can be many types of operators: assignment, relational, arithmetic, logical operators. So now in all of these operators there are many things. Like in assignment, when you want to give some do some addition, subtraction. So suppose if you want to do these things: plus, minus, division. Okay, if you want to multiply, sorry, if you want to multiply, then if you want to do some modulus operations, to the power operations, and okay, so these are some of the different operators in your assignment, or I can just write it like this. Okay, so these are some of the different operators here. Okay, so you have these different operators in your assignment. Then you have relational operators. So in relational operators, what you have, Like if you want to do some comparison or tell relation, suppose less than, suppose greater than, suppose you have like, let me write it like this, less than, suppose you have greater than, if you have less than equal to, if you have greater than equal to. hmm? So if you want to have your equal to symbol, so less than, less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to, or you have equal to means they are equal, like their values are same, their types are same, or you can have not equal to also. mm. Then you have arithmetic operators, so that was your arithmetic operators, like plus, minus, subtraction, sorry I write it here. Okay, now your assignment operators, when you want to assign something, are your assignment operators. So suppose if you write like equal to, if you write less than, sorry, if you write plus equal to, it will mean add and equal to. If you write minus equal to, right, or these can be some of the operators, into, multiplication. If you see in the assignment operators, like plus equal to, minus equal to, you can write it like this also. You can write it just let me copy here. So just you can write equal to there. hmm? Something like this. Then you have your logical operations. So suppose you have and, not, and or. So suppose I like and, not, or. Okay, so you have these logical operators. So assignment, arithmetic, relational, and logical operators. Okay, so next what you want to do, next we can have some of the programs also, if you want to see. Suppose I want to add two numbers, so we can have a calculator program, something like that also. But let's suppose you want to program to add two numbers. So if I write program to add two numbers, okay, if I write this, that program to add two numbers, so if I write something like this, a is equal to, then I have to type into int, and then I have to write input number, I can write enter a number, then I can write b, I can write b and input a number, then I can write print sum of numbers, and I can write like equal to, and I can write a plus b, and it will print it out. So let's run it. So suppose I want to add 2, 3. So now it added the two numbers, 2 plus 3 equal to 5, right? In the same way we can subtract, multiply, divide. So suppose and just control C. I'm just writing minus. Mm, So you have plus, minus, multiply, modulus, quotient, and we can have to the power also, this symbol also. So suppose I can just do it like this, just hmm. So now what we can do, let's run it. Okay, you see it is 3.6 and it rounds it off to smaller number. Okay, so in this way it works. Would you Okay, so now this was about your print your numbers. Okay, so now we it is like a calculator program. Okay, it's like a calculator. You can think of a program to add two numbers, or you can think of it like a calculator project also. Okay. Okay, now next sorry, I don't know why it's this 22 is here, but okay. Now next what we want to do, we saw which operators, these are arithmetic operators. So next let's see some assignment operators. So assignment operators are what? Suppose I want to write suppose we write enter two numbers, okay, and we write a equal to b. So if I write a a plus equal to b, what does it mean? It means a equal to a plus b. If I write this means, what does this line mean? This line means that a equal to a plus b. If I write a plus equal to 1, it means what? A equal to a plus 1. Okay, if I write it means a equal to a plus 1. If I similarly, if I replace it with minus, like all the other arithmetic operations, minus, division, modulus operation, multiplication, this is module, this is what, this is your to the power. Okay, so suppose if all these things are there sorry. Okay, so now if I talk about other relational operators, if I write print a greater than b, if it is, then it will, if yes it will print true, if no it will print false. If I write print a greater than b, true, false, a greater than equal to b, less than equal to b, these will represent, these will give true or false. Equal to, like if the type and value are not equal or not, not equal to, if it's a is not equal to b, then it will print true, otherwise it will show us false. So suppose I am showing two numbers. If I showing 4, entering 4, entering 5, so now you see a is less than b, right? So it is showing true, right? If I say 5, enter 7, then what will happen? Sorry, just leave it for now. Delete. Okay, so just let me rerun it. So if I say for first number is 9, second number is 8, you see now it will it should 9 and 8. Okay, so what was the thing here? If 9 is greater than b, suppose now I am entering if a number, I am putting smaller number first. Now you show it is showing false, right? So in this way all this works. Then if you want to print something, how to print it? So if you want to print something, you use this. If you want to input something, you use this. Okay, so these are what print and input functions. Okay, so now we learnt about these operators, relational operators, arithmetic, assignment. If you want to see logical, so suppose logical works in binary. Suppose if you say there are and, there is or, and there is not. Okay, so suppose it is as a literal. So suppose if I say if it is like there are some truth tables. Okay, there is something called as truth tables. Okay, so if in truth tables what happen, like suppose if it is and, right, what will happen? If it is and, then there will be 0 and 1. So 0 and 1 result will be 0. If it is 1 and it is 0, then result will be 0. If it is 0 and 0, then result will be 0. If it is 1 and 1, then result will be 1. So suppose, just let me write it like this. The result will be 0. Okay, control Z. Okay, now here what will happen? Here result will be 0 and backspace. Okay, now sorry, here what will be have? Here we will have 1. Okay, result. So suppose I'm just and. Okay, so suppose if it is or. Okay, suppose if it is or, so what will happen if it is or? Then it will be, if it is 0 or 1, then it will be 1. Then if it is 1 and 0, then answer will be 1. If it is 0 and 0, 0 or 0, then answer will be 0. If it is 1 or 1, then answer will be 1. So this is the difference between and or. Then I am giving you see now after that, this what we can have? Not. So suppose after not, what we can see? So if it is in not, what happens that if it is 0, so not 0 will be 1, and not 1 will be 0. In this way truth table works. Okay, so if I write print 1 or print 1 or 0, 1 or 0, what it will print? It will, if I write 1 or print 1 or 0, it will print 1. Okay, let me run it. So just let me make all of this comment. Okay, and run it now. Okay, so let me just see what happened here. Okay, let me run again. Now you see it is saying it is printing 1 here. So suppose if I write, let me write here, if I write between it and where it is written or, I write and, the answer will be 0. Okay, let's run it. You see now answer is 0. So in this way it works. If I say print not 1, what will happen? It will print 0. It is saying false. 0 means false. If I say print not 0, if it is not 0, 0 means false. If it is not 0 means it is true. Okay, if I just say print 0, so it will be what? It will be false. Okay, it is just printing 0 here. So okay, so this is how the truth table works. Everything it works actually. Okay, so now we have our operators. So we have done the operators part. Okay, so next what we need to do, we want to do something else. After doing operators, what we have discussed operators, we have discussed taking user input and conditional statements. So next we are going to discuss about conditional statements. So we can click on create and we can write conditions dot py. Okay, enter, and I'm going to this file conditions dot py, and I'm going to work on now conditions. Okay, so corrected conditional statements. In conditional statements there are some conditions, there are some rules. uh, you can say if that happen, then you execute the line next to it. If that condition is not satisfied, you skip the line next to it and goes to the third line. That happens. Or you go to else condition if condition is not satisfied. Okay, so suppose if I want to create a program for voting eligibility. Okay, so if a user is eligible for voting or not, I want to check that. So what I will do for creating this kind of program, I will just go, so suppose like we write a comment here. So create a voter eligibility program. Okay, so suppose what we no, let's suppose if a user is greater than 18, what we do, if a user is greater than 18, we say that eligible to vote. Otherwise, if a user is not eligible to vote, if a user is not eligible to vote, what we say, just wait a minute. If a user is not eligible to vote, if a user is not eligible to vote, what we say he will not vote if he is smaller than 18. So create a voting eligibility program. If I say create a voting eligibility program, so I will write, uh, if suppose I want age, I will take age from the user, input int age, it will be in the form of integer, int, okay, sorry, input int, or I can ask from the user, I cannot ask from the user also. I can just write just write here, I can write here enter your age, or I can write print enter your age here also. I can write print, can create a string and say enter your age. Okay, after that what I can do, after doing this, I can just go here and I can write if eligible, if age greater than or equal to 18, then I will add a semicolon. I will say print user is eligible to vote. And then otherwise what I will do, I will just write elif, and I will give a tab, and I will give print not eligible to vote. Okay, otherwise the user will not be eligible to vote. We can write that, or we will not write else if here. If there are else if we write else if we want to write if age is less than 18, we can write user is not eligible to vote. Or if you can create this program like this also, you can just altogether eliminate this and print it like this also if you want. So that will be the program. So suppose I'm running this program and I write this program as enter your age. So I write 24 and enter. Okay, wait a minute, if I'm writing something wrong here. Okay, sorry, I don't know why it's getting printed here. Okay, so what I did wrong here, you see, I will write int, I will write input. Okay, that was wrong. That I will write int input, and let me try now. Okay, I don't know why it's happening. Actually, I know I have to first click here and then I have to enter my age, and then it should run, but it is not running. Why it's not running? Print, I have given print statement, I have given int if age is greater than 18. I have to print this, otherwise I have to print this thing. I don't know why it's not working. Just let me cross check. Okay, actually I got confused with the C++ syntax. So we don't add the syntax here actually. If we write it like this, and we can just write it like this and run it. Okay, sorry, I did something wrong again. I need to delete it from this there and run it, and then I want to click on this point. I want to click 24, and then I need to run it. So it's still not showing. Okay, what am I doing wrong? User is eligible to vote, user is not eligible to vote. Okay, so it's going in the same line. So for else if, what I have to do, I want to write it something like this. Let's run it. Okay, let's run it. That's like suppose if I enter my age, okay, and I want to check if I'm eligible to vote or not. So it is saying yes, I'm eligible to vote. If I enter the age of 16, you see it is just printing 16, nothing else. Okay, so suppose if I want to create like else, lf, l, or I can write else, I can write print, I can write user is not eligible to vote. User is not eligible to vote, right? I can write it like this also. I can run it now. So if I write 14 now, sorry, I guess I have written it there back. Okay, it's there. So just let me write here 14 and enter. So else print user is not eligible to vote. Why it's not printing? Just let me delete everything from here. Run. Okay. 13. User is not eligible to vote. It's working fine. Next, if I want to create a program, just let me to show whether a number is positive, negative, or neutral. So I can create a program to check whether a number is positive, negative, or neutral. Okay, so I want to check this, like whether a number is positive, negative, or neutral. Okay, so just let's click here and we say okay, num is equal to input, and I want to convert it into int also, because our conditional statements will not work them. Okay, so if I want to say if num greater than 0, then what we want to do, we want to print positive. If I want to say elif num less than 0, sorry, if I want to say elif num less than 0, I want to print negative, and negative. Else, if it is else, what we want to do, we want to print 0. Okay, I want to print 0. Okay, so now let's run it. So suppose I'm entering yes, user is eligible to vote. Next I have to enter the number, so 6, it is positive. Okay, so in this way we can run it and see the results. Done. So this was the program. Next what we have to do, next we will learn about Python range. Okay, so we discussed about condition, so let's discuss about range. Okay, so what is range in Python? Okay, so in range in Python, what happens, suppose there is a range. Okay, in range you have the starting point. Okay, in range you have a starting point. You see there is a start, there is stop, and there is step. So suppose I'm starting from 1, I will stop at 10 and I will take a step of 1. By default it is 1. So suppose I'm running it. If I need to print it, I guess, so just let me print it. Need to close it and run it. Okay, so now it is just printing as that, so we have to just make it a list, I guess. So I have to convert it into a list, I guess. Okay, let's run it. Now it's working. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So it doesn't include the last point. So suppose if I want to give some steps, and I want to take a step of 5, so what will happen, let's run it and see. 1 and 6, first one is 1, then it will take 1 2 3 4 5, so it will go to 6. Okay, so in this way it will work. Okay, now suppose if I write it like this only, I am not adding any steps or endpoint. I'm just writing how many stop, where I have to stop. I have to, let me hover over it and you see class range stop. So it will print, I guess, 1 to 9. It is printing 0 to 9 actually. Okay, so when I included 1 in the beginning, just let me, okay, so when I included 1 in the beginning, it printed 1 to 9. 1 took its steps, 1 then 5, then I take a range, so 0 to 9, like first is last element is not included. Okay, so this is what is range is. Okay, so what does range do? If we talk about range in Python, so if we talk about range in range we can generate, what we can generate, a sequence of numbers. Okay, using which function? Range function. So suppose in the range 10, it will, if I write range 10, what it will do, it, if I write just this thing range 10, what it will do, it will print, it will generate a number 0 to 10. Okay, so range 10, this function will do what, it will generate a number from 0 to 10. If I want to print that, I have to put it inside a list function actually. Okay, so that is what a range is actually. And there is a start, there is a stop, there is a step. Okay, so in print what happens, that is start, stop and step. There is start, there is stop and there is step. Here what is happening, here only you have stop. Okay, here you have only stop. Here what you have start and stop. Okay, so I'm just copying it from here till here. Okay, so here you have only start and stop. Okay, so we are done with range also. So next we are going to learn about loops. Okay, what are loops in Python? So the for loop in Python is used to it. So there are loops. If you just talk about loop, so loop, what happens, loops are basically, if you want to repeat something, you use loops. If you want to have a repeated task, okay, to if you want to repeat, if you want to repeat a particular task, if you want to repeat a particular task, what you do, you use loops. Okay, and what type of loops can be used, like you have for loops, you have while loops. Okay, you have while loops also. Okay, so you have for loops and you have while loops. Okay, so if you talk about for loop, so for loop is used to iterate over a sequence. It can or other objects. It is called traversal. So iterating over a sequence is called what? It is called traversal. So for loop is used to iterate over a sequence. Okay, so basically for then we add a variable next to it in sequence. Okay, then you have while loops also. So if there is any condition given, you use while loops. If you talk about Python range function, of course we discussed about range function also. So suppose if I say print something in range. So suppose if I create a variable, print something, like if a variable is I and I say print I in range, and then I have to write something, suppose in range 10, and then I add a semicolon. Okay, and then what I have to do, I have to give some tab, and then I have to say, okay, sorry, I have written here print, right? So for I in range, actually what will happen, if I want to print 2 into I want to print a table of 2, so we can run it. So you see it's printing the table 0 0, then you have 2 into 1, 2 into 2, so it is printing till 2 into 7, 2 into 8, 2 into 9, so it is including till 9. If I print 11, then it will print till table of 10, table of 2 from 0 to 10. So this is what is for loop actually. So if I want to print a list also, so suppose if there is a list, okay, so suppose I am creating a list, my list, okay, in the list I want to do what, I want to create a list. In list, what you do, you say what do you say, favorite food list, well, like noodles, or you say tea, okay, or if you say coffee, okay. So now it's your list, and you want to print the list, so you can create a variable for then you can create a variable here. So for x, and then you can write in where, in my list, you can write it here, control V, then you can give a semicolon, and you can write print, and you need to do what you want to print, you want to print the index, okay, so you have to print the index also. Here you see what, no, sorry, I represents index, right? So you have to print here for x in this, so x will represent the index. So let's run it, noodles, tea and coffee, okay. So you see you were able to print it. So suppose if I write x into 2 and run it, so indexing start from 0 1 2, it is printing the index actually. Okay, so this was your okay, if you want to do something, if I want to do print okay, so now here this word is what, this word is actually a string, and I give it like this. writing something wrong here, I guess. If I write mm, दादी लगाए हैं. क्या हुआ? नहीं नहीं नहीं, सब नहीं, खराब हो जाएगा. If I write while 5 is greater than 0, tab print 5, okay, or you can write print 1 plus plus or control set, okay. And do what you want to do, you want to minus also, so you need to store it also. Suppose if I write n equal to 5, print n minus equal to, so it will mean n is equal to n minus 1, right? So if I write n minus equal to 1, so it will be like this, okay.